Hey, now it's the Rob from 106.1 KISS FM here once again with my tag team partner in podcasting. Have I mentioned that I'm glad you're back?
I missed you too.
It's Jerry Valeri broadcasting live from State College, Pennsylvania. How you doing, buddy?
Maybe I am Santa Claus. Maybe I'll come down there and sit on your lap.
We've got a whole lot to get to today because we did not talk about Raw last night. Even though we were both able to, we just didn't. Look at you. Would you just have it lying around, or where'd that come from?
Maybe I'll come down there and sit on your lap.
Yes, well, hey, I'd love to have you come down here and sit on my lap. But in the meantime, but that's gonna have to wait till March, I guess. The next planned trip down here.
Funniest moment on Raw in years, I think. I've watched it. I've watched it a dozen times. I can't stop laughing.
It was so natural. It's like usually when the wrestling tries to be funny, it's like either just funny to wrestling fans or it's like it falls on its face. Jericho, Kevin Owens, Enzo, and Cass made magic happen, didn't they?
They really did. I mean, they really did. We were talking 2 weeks ago about like favorite promos of all time. I don't know if that would be like one of the greatest promos of all time, but that was one of the most entertaining moments on Raw I can remember. I just absolutely loved it. And I just loved it. It was like, did you just say you were going to sit on my lap? He's like, no, I didn't. No, I never.
Nope.
No, I never. No,
Actually,
I said I was going to
punch you in the face. All right, we're going to get to that. So today, I want to make sure we're on the same page. We're going to cover Raw and SmackDown Super Show post to post, right?
Super Show. Let's do it.
All right, so we both watched Raw and SmackDown. We're going to get things started. I've got some notes here, and I guess I'm trying to move quickly because I imagine reviewing both shows is going to take some time.
Right, so let's just pick the best of the notes. Yeah,
okay, here's what I got to get things started. Continuing our conversation from, it's actually the one that got heated. I feel like let me ask you, before we get started with my notes, do you agree or disagree? Because you kind of went off into a strange place when we talked about Roman Reigns in our last episode.
I don't know what you mean.
Do you think are you happy Roman Reigns is the U.S. champion, or are you not happy? Do you think this is a good place for him, or do you not?
I'm happy that he is not being shoved down our throats in the main event any longer. That's what makes me happy. Him being champion doesn't matter to me one way or another. I don't think he hurts the belt. I think he helps the belt. He does bring with himself a bit of credibility. There's no denying that. I think his moveset is boring and predictable. I think this unbeatable Roman Reigns, always coming back, it's boring to me. I hated it when Hulk Hogan did it, and I'm hating it now. I don't want him in the main event.
Well,
I'm glad where he is, and he and Rusev are both bringing some really good stuff out of each other. I'm enjoying it, and I'm wondering if that's going to be the Hell in the Cell. I'm trying to figure out which match are they going to make Hell in the Cell, and that could be the one.
You make a good point, yeah, especially with how many times they've wrestled, and I haven't even thought about putting people in the cell yet. My only real note from that opening segment on Raw was that I still maintain Rusev should be on Roman Reigns' Christmas card list. He's doing so many favors to Roman, and to turn guys like me around on him, and to make us realize that he is having good matches, and he is in some ways an asset to the card if you put him in the right situations. Rusev brought that out of him, if you ask me.
I would have been so upset if Roman Reigns was in a program right now with Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens. However, all Rusev did was come out and violently attack Roman Reigns that one night, and he made me not hate Roman Reigns anymore. I mean, like I can joke around about how I hate him and I'm sick of his face, and I so am. I think he ruins things.
I mean, I'm there with you, but this is a good spot for him. Now I don't get upset to see him.
This is a great spot. An opening Raw with almost 40 minutes of a brutal Rusev-Roman Reigns match, it didn't bother me. It didn't. I liked it, and I liked the chair shots, and I just I like what they're doing. I think it's good. It's keeping him out of the main event picture. That's the only time people booed him. People didn't boo Roman Reigns until they started force-feeding us with Roman Reigns.
You're exactly right. So we are on the same page there.
Yeah.
So that was my thought about Rusev and Reigns, is that Reigns owes him a big thank you in my opinion. Also, when you started how they started the show with this, you were talking about how they started with 40 minutes of Reigns and Rusev, which was okay. I did think it was a bit odd to start the show with 2 rematches from the night before, which wasn't a good show to begin with.
Not only start the show with 2 rematches, but then have them both finish the same way, essentially.
Yeah. I didn't even note that part, but you're right.
Like, I thought, especially during the New Day Club, I was like, okay, so this is where the club gets the belt.
Yeah.
They let New Day get to 400 days, and now the club gets the belt, and it would have been perfect. Kofi Kingston bleeding profusely in the middle of the ring. They should have been pinned. That would have been. Then you have the club standing over a beaten and bloody New Day holding up the belts. You can continue that feud through Survivor Series. It would have made total sense.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Is it almost safe to say that their match at Raw was maybe even better and more memorable than the one at Night of Champions?
Absolutely, and it has everything to do with the endings. Those goofy, weird endings, and yeah, I think it does.
Steve and I were talking about this, and he said that he thought it was going to be at Raw. He was saying that going into Raw on Monday, that they just wanted to get to that 400-day mark, and it'd be a memorable time for them to switch the belts. While I didn't think it was going to happen on Raw, I think it needs to happen soon, and I do wish it is somewhere special like a pay-per-view.
I don't know if it's going to happen now.
Ever?
Well, eventually they're going to drop it, but I don't know if the club's going to. I mean, how many times can one team beat another team before it's not a rivalry? You know what I mean? Like it's hardly a rivalry between the Steelers and the Browns when the Steelers win all the time.
Sure.
It's not a rivalry. So if you want a real feud, then the club's got to be getting the upper hand at some point. And I think the best way to do that is hand them the belt.
Is it a rivalry between the Steelers and the Eagles?
Listen, the last time the Steelers lost to the Eagles, I'll have you know, Steelers won the Super Bowl. So just watch your mouth.
Is that 2004 you're talking about? 2005?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Because I remember the Eagles going to the Super Bowl, beating the Steelers didn't make it that year.
No, the Eagles went to the Super Bowl one time and they lost to the Patriots. And my friend and I actually got to hold the Super Bowl ring of the Patriots because my buddy was on that team.
Listen, I'm going over into football land and I have no right to be here. So
you did it though. You brought it there.
I know I did. And I immediately regretted it because I just know that correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the Eagles beat the Steelers this weekend or the weekend before?
It was brutal. It was a beating.
But again, it's like MMA. You do circles around me when it comes to football knowledge. Weird call early in Raw. They showed the clip you were talking about, actually. You told me about it, that it was an online exclusive of Stephanie getting into the car with Triple H.
Yes.
And I believe it was Byron Saxton who said there was something fishy about this. And I'm over on my couch wondering, what in the blue hell is fishy about a woman getting into a car with her husband?
They want you to think that it's fishy.
Yeah, but I mean, when Cornish was on here on Tuesday's episode, he was like, "Are we just supposed to forget that they're married? Like they haven't spoken since Triple H returned and beat up the Shield guys? Like we're just supposed to forget that they're an item, that they don't go to bed together every night and just don't talk about it?
Like they don't have dinner together or anything?
You know, like how much are we? So they get into a car together, they kiss each other. That's not weird for a husband and a wife to do."
Well, the kissing each other and acting like you like each other is weird for a husband and wife.
So I thought that was a weird call from, I think it was Byron Saxton.
Yeah, there are a lot of weird calls going on from Byron and from Graves.
Yeah, they're not ready.
Although I like the one Corey Graves had one line that actually was good. I thought was good, and it's bad when you can isolate the good comments from these commentators.
Yeah, we're not like, you know, Michael Cole had a really good line.
No, Corey Graves had one decent line when he said that if Cesaro keeps it up with the KT tape, he's going to start looking like a mummy.
I didn't even catch that one.
I liked it. I was like, okay, that's one, and then I stopped counting.
Hey, speaking of Eric Cornish, I don't know if he's going to be watching this episode or not, but he also commented, he texted me, he's like, hey, on Post to Post, I called the ending of the Best of 7 feud, which he did. He said this is going to, or should result in them becoming together as a tag team.
He better just watch his mouth, Cornish. I'll kick him through a barbershop window.
Oh, stop. You have no reason to feud with Cornish. You went to the Magic Kingdom, and sometimes we have people sit in when need be.
I kick him through a barbershop window.
Well, he was dead on the money, though. So what do you think about them doing exactly what he said and making them a team? I think I actually am in favor of it.
I'm in favor of it, but I'm bummed out that they're going to end up being the ones that probably take the belts off a New Day and not the club.
If that's what happens, I mean, whatever. You're probably right when you say that, although I guess I would like to see the club get it. I feel like they probably earned it more. But for the storyline purposes, I mean, it sounds like it seems like it's pulled right from Austin and Dude Love, their tag team run. Like, they don't like each other, but they become unlikely champs.
Well, the WWE found a way to make chicken gravy out of chicken poop is what they did, because I think nobody wanted either one of them to have a title shot right now. Nobody wanted them to take on Kevin Owens. I didn't want to see a feud with either one of them and Kevin Owens. Neither one's ready.
Correct.
And so they swerved it and they made them tags, and I think that's good. It puts them in a spot where I won't mind seeing them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it makes Sheamus more watchable for me. And I actually like the gimmick of the strange bedfellow partnerships. So I'm cool with that. Also, I wanted to shout out Foley for really doing a good job in that backstage promo of putting that over. It was the exact opposite of what he did with the cruiserweights. Oh, you didn't see that. You didn't see that because it was on the last week's Raw. Man, Mick Foley tripped all over himself introducing the cruiserweights.
Really?
On the Monday that you missed, yeah.
That's very unlike him.
I know. And he even had to pull out notes, and he couldn't speak. He was marble-mouthed. It was terrible. I mean, it was right up there with Titus O'Neil, worst promo of the year stuff.
Oh, that makes me sad because Mick Foley's my favorite.
I know he is, but he redeemed himself, I thought. He did a great job of making that best of seven seem important and this partnership seem important.
Yeah, I'm conflicted about seeing Foley on TV every week because it's a very feeble Foley.
I guess, but I mean, I feel like it's better than nothing, and I feel like this is a good spot for him.
It is a good spot for him. It makes me sad to see him limping around all the time.
There was Anna Fields was the jobber for Bailey.
Right.
So shout out Anna Fields.
I love that they're throwing jobbers now in with just about everybody.
Right, yeah. Essentially, yeah, because she's been on the roster for a month. You know, a lot of people will consider that a jobber. But
yeah,
it's Bailey. It's not a
they
jobber.
gave jobbers to Cesaro and Sheamus.
I'll get to that here in just a second. A funny thing happened. Another what I would consider a commentary flub. I wish I seem to make note of who said it. I think this one was Corey Graves. They came out of commercial. You know how they'll come out of the real commercials with commercials for SmackDown?
Yeah.
They came out of a real commercial with the SmackDown commercial. And then literally the first lines after they came back from that commercial was, well, here's something you're not going to see on SmackDown Live. You're not going to see, and it was the cruiserweights. Like, can you imagine if we come back, we'll say you're on the radio and we come back from a spot from like, I don't know, McDonald's.
Right.
Well,
here's something you're not going to hear. You're not going to get at McDonald's.
Yeah, or exactly. You know, like you don't. Why would you run a commercial for a product and then say you're never going to see something this good on this product? And it's the cruiserweights. Right.
Well, it's a stupid thing to say, anyways. I mean, like you could say that about any show. Here's something else you're not going to see on Law and Order. The cruiserweights. Yeah, we got it, Graves.
How many cruiserweights have you seen on Walking Dead, geeks? You know, so yeah, I thought that was such a dumb line. That first cruiserweight match. By the way, 2 cruiserweight matches. How great is that?
I love it. I had an idea last night, and I'm sure that it'll get shot down, and if I think about it too long, it'll probably be a bad idea. But we all complain about Raw being way too long. I would love it if the first hour of Raw every week was a cruiserweight show.
That's not a bad idea.
I'd love that if they just gave the first hour to the cruiserweights every single time. Or
even, I wouldn't care if they made it NXT.
Yeah. Give us something to look. If you've got to have the 3 hours because of commercials and revenue that way, then I get it in a way. But give us something other than 3 hours of Raw, because that's really what's keeping that show from being better than SmackDown.
Yeah, I agree. It's just too long. Did you see that? I forget if it was part of the finish or not, but the lumbar check in that first cruiserweight match.
No.
Oh man, one of the guys did their finish, and it was this move called a lumbar check. And I mean, I don't know if it got screwed up. I mean, no one got like seriously hurt from my knowledge, but it was brutal looking. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Check it out if you get a chance to.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the Cesaro Sheamus match now. The jobbers that they had were the smooth team of Nick Cutler and Willis Williams. What's his name?
What you talking about, Willis?
I did note that the tape is becoming part of Cesaro's attire. It seems like it's becoming very extraneous.
It's too much. It's way too much. I liked it at first. It was a little different, but now it is. I mean, it's completely covering his entire body.
I hate to focus on commentary flubs, but Corey Graves had a terrible lineup. Well, it wasn't bad. I'm being critical, I guess, but I'm going to keep picking on him. There was a moment in the tag match where Cesaro looked for a tag from Sheamus, but Sheamus wouldn't give it to him. Okay, which is fine. Yeah. That's part of their dynamic. And later on in the match, not far later, Nick Cutler and William Willis screwed up a basic tag. Did you catch that?
Yes.
Okay, so then Corey Graves had the pointed observation. This is a direct quote. Quote, Cutler had a problem executing a basic tag, which I thought was funny following the fact that just moments before, Cesaro and Sheamus also had a problem making a tag.
Right.
So I just thought that was funny timed. I mean, should he be lambasted for it? No, it was just funny time for that comment. I thought, you know, they both teams had a hard time making a tag, and then you're picking on the one team that didn't. Whatever. So there was that. You know, during the post show, Mike brought up the fact that the cruiserweights, they've got like their own they're almost like an island on Raw. And so, I mean, I pointed out the purple ropes on our evaluation of Clash of Champions. The lights do also change during those matches. And I'm also noticing they forego the Titantron, and they don't have video on it. They just have cruiserweights or something on it after their entrances.
They should give them their own spot for a little while. Eventually, you're going to have to integrate the cruiserweights into the rest of the roster, I think.
This is my question. So yeah, what do you think about them being isolated? I don't know that I have an opinion.
I think that it's okay now. It doesn't bother me. I think down the road, you're going to want to start taking the stars that you develop and putting them in other places.
I agree with that. Yeah, that wasn't my thought going into it, but I didn't really have one. I agree with that. It's okay now to kind of put them over as something special and different and new, and then eventually let's just integrate them into the roster. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're on the same page there. So there was all that. Okay, and then I don't have anything until the main event segment, and I'm sure you want to dive into that.
Just dive into the main event already. That was the best. Holy cow.
My simple note is Jericho and Enzo and Kaz's promo was such a joy to watch. Now I'm going to let you go because I know you're fired up about this.
It was exactly that. It was a joy, and coming on the heels of a Sunday night where I think we all can agree Jericho was a bit on the flat side. He really brought that magic that he has to the ring. The minute he gets in the ring for the highlight reel, and he and with the list. And with Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens is perfect to be his best friend, and they're playing off of each other, and there's a little bit of tension, but it's just really well done, and it reminds me of the Attitude Era, which I loved more than any other era.
Oh, it's anytime I just hear those words, it makes my heart sing.
Yeah, and then Enzo and Cass come out, and Cass impressed me on the mics. Enzo did a good job.
You're right.
And then Cass, I don't know if this was planned, and maybe it was, but if it wasn't, then Cass deserves so much credit because he sees an opportunity to get the crowd involved. And he says, well, let's prove it. And then he asks the crowd, did Jericho say he wants to sit on my lap? And they blew up. It was the loudest reaction anybody got all night. It was so well done by all four guys.
You're right.
And Jericho makes me laugh. And he's like, well, unfortunately, we don't have a match with you two idiots. Sorry. He's so obnoxious. It's perfect. I like this Jericho better than all the other Jerichos, I think. I can't believe I'm saying that, because 3 months ago we were talking about how this wasn't working for him.
To me, it's right up there with his old stuff. Whether you want to talk about early WWE or you want to talk about WCW, I mean, it's right there with it, which is just fine by me. I mean, this is a guy, we were talking about this yesterday. We both placed Jericho in our all-time top 10. You're actually considering whether he's number 1 for you.
He could be. I can see. When I think about it, I look back and like everything he's done makes me laugh, or I've enjoyed it in some way. You know, he's always making me. He's entertaining me always, and I like that. He can be vicious. But when he's being funny is when he's at his best, I think.
But see, like back in the late 90s and early 2000s, he was consistently having match of the night quality matches.
Absolutely. That's the only thing holding him back right now is that but he's an older guy. He doesn't have the body that he had, and I don't expect him to. But he's sharp as a tack still.
Yeah.
And I think that whole locker room needs to look to him as the veteran leadership of that show. Like, I think I would say right now, he is the best on that show.
I get excited to see him, whereas a few months ago, I was a little bit yawny when he'd come out, you know. I get really drained by his Fozzy leaves and then his wrestling returns, and I found him hard to invest in because he was never around for too long, but this time has been so good. So, yeah.
He is my favorite to watch on Raw, and when I tell you who my favorite to watch on SmackDown is, I think you're going to be surprised.
Okay, well, let's actually transition over to SmackDown. Go ahead. Can I take a guess?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to say your favorite to watch on SmackDown is going to be, I've got down to a few names. Is it Heath Slater?
No, but he's awesome.
Is it AJ Styles?
No, but he could be. I mean, he's amazing, and I'm glad he's the champion. He deserves to be the main event, and he's amazing, but he's just not my favorite.
Is it John Cena?
It's not.
All right, then I 3 strikes and I'm out.
It's The Miz.
Oh, duh. Yeah.
It's the Miz. I can't believe it. I can't believe it's The Miz.
I've got notes about that too.
When SmackDown and Raw had their draft, we were both upset. I remember Steve being
everyone was, I think,
inconsolable. We were upset. And I thought that it was unfair completely. And now I look at it, and Raw needed all the guys that they took. They absolutely did, because they're struggling with what they have, and SmackDown Live is thriving. They are thriving with dudes that Raw was not ever going to utilize.
They're doing a lot of things right, and they are fixing a lot of broken wrestlers.
They've revitalized The Miz. I think they're revitalizing Ziggler in a really weird roundabout way.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many beneficiaries of this draft. Miz and Ziggler being two of them. Look at Heath Slater, AJ Styles. I mean, there are so many people that, because of this brand extension, have been benefiting. So, of course, I am eating my words in that respect a little bit, although I will maintain you didn't need the draft to do this. And here's the best way I thought of a really concise way to say how I felt about what they should have done. Instead of draft and instead of brand exclusivity, visualize this for me if you can, Jerry and everybody watching. You know how in the back, I can't think of an example of when I've seen it, but I know I've seen it many times. There's like a board, and that board has every segment by segment on the board. It's got every match and every promo and everything that goes on that board. Can you visualize that?
Yes, it's in my mind.
Okay. So Raw has a board and SmackDown has a board. And imagine if you took those together and you made one big board. So you have all the segments that you had on Raw and all the segments that you had on SmackDown. Now, take those segments and just mix up their placements, but keep them all, over 5 hours of programming. Like, you got the 3 hours of Raw and 3 hours of SmackDown. You give the same amount of exposure to the same amount of guys, whether they be on Raw or SmackDown. It doesn't even need to be the same every week. Like, you still have AJ Styles versus Dean Ambrose, but you don't know if it will be on Raw or SmackDown. You know, it doesn't, they don't need to be exclusive. You still have the Miz and Ziggler segments. You still have all those Orton and Bray Wyatt segments on one show. It just doesn't need to be SmackDown every time. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I see why they would find that too complicated, both for the writers and for the viewers. But I think you're right. It would have worked. But this does create urgency. Like, I never felt like I needed to watch SmackDown ever. And now I know if I don't watch SmackDown, I won't know what the hell's going on with some of my favorite wrestlers.
That's a valid point. You're right. I mean, it's just, I guess it's just a matter of opinion. But I will say, what are we now? 2 months in to the one? Okay, so maybe even close to 3 months, like 2.5 months into this draft. It's been beneficial.
Yeah,
that will probably change. I still predict it will wane. That, I mean, remember, SmackDown was super hot after the first draft too. But I do think right now they're doing well with the way they split things up.
Yeah, and I think SmackDown Live is definitely benefiting. I haven't looked at ratings. I don't know what the ratings are for these shows, if they've gone up. SmackDown has to have gone up. USA has to be happy with that decision.
Raw's bottoming out.
Yeah, which bums me out, and we talked about that a little bit, because I think they're going to blame Kevin Owens at some point. But The Miz is just one of my favorites to watch, and I thought his segment with Dolph Ziggler was an A+.
Yeah,
the whole thing, getting in Ziggler's parents' faces, you know, just all of it. Like, he is a delight to watch. So is Heath Slater. So is AJ Styles. The tag division is pretty great on SmackDown, and that's a surprise to me.
Yeah, instead of just going in order, since we're talking about Miz and Dolph, I will say that my note about them, and that I guess I use the term "in a good place," and what I mean by that is the same thing as the Roman Reigns thing. While they kind of like Dolph Ziggler, think of it like this: like, it's weird to think that he's in a good place now when he was just in the main event. Yeah. But he's in a better place now, even though it's lower on the card and maybe less in paychecks. It's a better place for him to be because he can stay here and do well for much longer than he could flounder in the main event.
For the first time since John Cena had the U.S. title, a secondary belt feels important.
Oh, yeah, well, on both shows.
Yeah, that Intercontinental title feels so important right now. You know, and I think it's because they separated them. That's the one good thing about these two different shows, is you don't have too many belts. You don't have the Intercontinental and the U.S. title and the heavyweight title. You have the big belt, little belt, big belt, little belt.
Yeah.
Separate.
So I guess we agree on that then. We definitely are on the same wavelength.
Do you think
there.
I'm crazy for thinking Miz is my favorite on that show?
Absolutely not. No, okay. Not at all. I just didn't think about it. And just like, I know what you like out of wrestlers, but yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. I was happy to see Bray Wyatt go back to his quote whole wide world stuff, because I think that's reminiscent of the time he was most successful in wrestling. It got a little out there. It drifted away from like if someone's first show they ever watched in the world of wrestling was SmackDown last night, they wouldn't be able to get past how ridiculous the Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton stuff was last night. But from a wrestling fan point of view, you know, it was different. It was creepy. And I like seeing Bray in that capacity. Thoughts? I
don't usually get caught up in wins and losses because it's scripted and that shouldn't matter. But for me, if Bray Wyatt doesn't win this feud, it's catastrophic. Yeah, because I can barely take him seriously. He calls himself a god. He's talking about Hansel and Gretel. He's the only reason that Mankind was scary was because he come out, rip his hair out, and beat the living hell out of somebody. The only reason The Undertaker is The Undertaker is because he would do all the supernatural stuff, but then he beat the hell out of people. Like, he was winning matches. Bray Wyatt doesn't win ever. So, like, he's just like the scariest jobber on the roster right now. And he needs to win. He needs to win or I can't take him seriously.
Well, I'm afraid that's not going to happen. That's even one of my notes is like, well, I mean, listen, I'm not writing it. I'm just predicting.
So you've made it law.
Well, here's what I wrote. I said the Bray Wyatt stuff is weird but cool. I really wish the payoff would have been that he actually successfully got into Orton's head, but that's not what the ending was. The ending was he didn't get into his head. I think it would have been much more interesting if Orton left SmackDown being terrified of Bray as opposed to being, above him.
Right.
I'm afraid this is going to further bury Bray Wyatt if he can't get into Randy Orton's head or at least beat him.
They need to, he's going to be doing tag matches with his brother Bo here in a minute.
Yeah, we'll be like the jobbers for Willis Williams was Bray Wyatt this week.
Right. I Bray leave.
Another note, and I don't want this to come off poorly, but something weird is happening on these shows, and I don't have a problem with it. It's just so out of left field. Does anyone else find these Hispanic heritage videos strange?
I don't know what they're doing with it.
That's the thing, is like, when have they ever done this? And not only that, they're not just doing wrestlers. Like, I get like celebrating Pedro Morales and I get celebrating Eddie Guerrero, but sometimes they're just like baseball players.
Right. Well, they did Jose Fernandez, right?
I think so.
Well, he died. That's why they did him.
Oh, just recently?
He was an active roster on the Miami Marlins, and he died in a freak boating accident. And it was this week, and all of baseball honored him over the weekend and Monday and stuff.
Strike my records from the comments. I mean, like, it's just weird that they've been doing this for the whole month. I know it's like Hispanic Heritage Month. I thought that they just seem out of place, and they've got a weird like announcer. It's not like the typical Raw or SmackDown announcer guy. It's just, I don't know. They just seem kind of weird to me.
I know. Yeah.
So
I didn't even notice it. I don't pay attention to anything.
You probably fast forward through it.
I probably did.
Because we didn't even know who it was about. I remember, I believe Raw's was Pedro Morales, or maybe that was, I don't even remember.
Listen, I can't watch all of it. I can't. I miss a lot of stuff.
I understand. Then my final note was, I actually thought the biggest pop of the night went to the hot tag into Heath Slater. The biggest pop of the night.
He's so good. He's doing such a great job in that spot. They're not going to be tag champs forever or for long, but he's making the most out of this.
I agree. So do you think it was a solid week of TV? What would you say, what your overall thoughts on the shows?
I would give the last 30 minutes of Raw an A++++++.
Sure. Yeah.
Plus. That's the best of all the programming they've had in a while.
That was great. I agree.
But Raw as a whole gets a B, and SmackDown would get an A. I think
I give SmackDown a C, and I'd give SmackDown a B+, maybe.
Yeah, let's give SmackDown a B+, and let's give Raw a D-.
I would say Raw was average, especially considering what they were up against this week with football and the debates and stuff. So,
how doomed are they, by the way, if Seth Rollins is legitimately hurt?
I think they'll be okay. He might deserve it. He might deserve a taste of his own medicine, maybe.
We were talking about that, though, but it was SmackDown. If SmackDown loses a guy, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
If Raw can afford to lose a couple guys.
Jerry, thank you so much again for your time. I'm going to wrap things up over here. Thank you again. We will be back on Tuesday. We'll review Raw. I always enjoy talking to you. I love your thoughts. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we will be back again on Tuesday with another episode of Post to Post.
Maybe I am Santa Claus. Maybe I'll come down there and sit on your lap.
You just say you're going to sit on my lap?
No, I never.
Yeah, you did. You said you're going to sit on my lap.
So I said I was going to punch you in the face.